All right, you're in day one of Ignite the Power, Your Power. See, already a mistake. Ignite Your Power. Use anger as fuel for growth. So, in order to create a safe place so that we can do the best work, I want you to think of something sacred. And usually people might say their loved ones, their family, peace, love, their heart. So if any of these resonate for you, think it and imagine yourself and including us in a bubble that is sacred. I have this lotus blossom on the left. And if you know anything about lotus plants, they grow from very, very muddy waters. And then when they come to the surface with the leaves and their blossoms, they're gorgeous flowers. Pema's children use the metaphor of the lotus that we are like a lotus blossom, but there is so much um, mud before we emerge in our beauty. And part of what we're doing today is finding other ways to um, remove some of the mud. And that's how we will come to know our power. I quoted Meister Eckhart here, and suddenly you know it's time to start something new and trust the magic of beginnings. Because in this presentation, I hope that the experiences that you have and the material that I will present would suggest a new beginning for you, that you can see your present and your future not so much informed by the past, but you have left the burden of your past behind to be fresh and starting something new. Okay, we have introductions. Some of you can see on the screen that Anna is here as my co-host. She will facilitate all that I forget, can't see, especially in the chat. So I welcome Anna's presence, and she's going to read my official bio to begin this, so I can introduce myself to you who don't know. Unknown caller. Anna?
I was on mute. Sorry about that. All right. Anne earned her PhD in clinical psychology in 1981 and has been working with clients ever since. She began as a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Psychiatry at UC Berkeley, then served as a counseling psychologist at the university's Counseling Center. After retiring from UC Berkeley, Anne expanded her work through a wide range of healing and personal development trainings. These include certification in Barbara Brennan Healing Science, Reiki Master Training, MAP, Make Anything Possible, Psych K, Neurological Repatterning, and Past Life Regression Therapy with Dr. Brian Weiss. She is also the author of Listen to the Cries of Your Heart, published in 2016.
Thank you, Anna. I want to talk about the real story behind the surface. And it's very personal, and it may make you uncomfortable because It is very personal. I want you to know that didn't always live from power, which is what I'm talking about today, or clarity, or even purpose. Most of my life, I looked like I had it all together. I was a successful psychologist. I spent decades helping others heal, achieve, transform. So on the outside, I had the career, the credentials, and the life people respected. But on the inside, I felt lost. Not dramatically, quietly, secretly. And it was so quiet and secret, I didn't know I was lost. You see, I grew up with a mother who was emotionally distant. She was depressed, stoic, and silent. She didn't mean to be unavailable to me, but she was. And like so many daughters, I internalized it. I became the good girl, the conformist, the one who never caused trouble, never had needs. Her depression, withdrawal, stoicism, and silence was also shared by my father. Life disappointed him, and before that, as a young man, he was apparently the life of the party. So my parents were both disappointed by life and withdrew. So I looked strong on the outside, but I was simply surviving, relying on perfectionism, people pleasing, self reliance. I didn't even realize my heart was broken. I didn't even know I was grieving. After I retired early from UC Berkeley, I turned to deeper healing work. I kept trying to solve something. I spent tens of thousands of dollars and decades on training and certifications, as listed in my official bio. All the while, I thought I was seeking income, purpose, direction. But what I was really seeking was myself, and I didn't know it. My turning point came when intuition broke through my intellect. Up to that time, I lived through my intellect, my thinking mind. One day, I heard the message, clear and gentle. Listen to the cries of your heart. That phrase stopped me. You see, I never had intuition speak to me before. I was entranced. So I began listening to the whispers I had silenced for years. I stopped trying to figure it all out and started following the truth that lived inside me. I followed those cries, and they led me to the child within who had never been seen, never felt safe, never heard. That phrase, listen to the cries of your heart, became a chapter. The chapter became a book. And from that all, a healing process was born. A process that didn't just inform my work, it transformed me, my life. Later, intuition showed up again to tell me I should learn how to do MAP, make anything possible, which deepened everything. It gave me the tools to gently dissolve the pain at its roots, to reconnect with the truth of who I am, reconnect with my undefended heart, to connection with spirit and my soul purpose. So now this is the work I do for everyone like me, for the strong ones, the successful ones, the silent survivors, for all who are tired of pretending, who long to come home to themselves. I quote this: "This is where your healing begins. This is where you reclaim your voice, your fire, your power, and I am here to work with you." So, you know where your chat is. Say yes in the chat. If you wake up wondering, is this really my life? I feel too overwhelmed to change it. I can see that there are responses in the chat, so presumably there are yeses to that. Say yes in the chat if you feel you've outgrown your life and don't know what else is possible.
I see a couple yeses.
Good. You know, every time I hit the screen, it changes where we are. So I'm not going to look. I'm going to depend on you for the yeses. Say yes in the chat if you read all the books, tried all the practices, and still feel stuck or invisible. Any yeses? Yes?
Not yet.
Oh,
Now I see yes to the books and practices feel less stuck, but still sticky.
okay. Finally, say yes in the chat if you sense you're here for more, but feel scattered, unclear, or something inside is holding you back. Say yes in the chat. If you sense you're here for more, but feel scattered, unclear, or like something inside is holding you back.
Ruth says yes, she just found her chat on her phone.
Good.
Alex says yes to more, working with the holding back parts. And Cindy says yes for more, and something me is holding me back.
Wonderful. All right. So you might have resonated with my story. So rather than your spending decades as I did, I want to guide you today to find a new way, to entertain a new way. The components are section 1 is going to be your history with anger. 2, we're going to help you define how you handle anger today. Be very clear with that. And the third is an emotional reset that I'm going to suggest to you, invite you to consider, or even begin to start resetting in terms of how you handle emotions. So, section 1, your first language of anger. Do you see that um, little figure on the left? That's me. Um, some of my personal history is early on in life, I heard my fraternal grandmother say to my mother that I was a habutembo, which is that look, a pouter. And I took it as criticism. So I learned I gotta hide any of my anger or discontent. And then from my own personal history, my father, as reserved and withdrawn as he was, exploded with anger 3 times early in my life. And fortunately, he only exploded with things. Like when I spilled the indelible India ink on the new wool rug in our living room after he had warned me about it, he picked up the bottle and flung it across the room. I haven't thought much about how those explosions of anger affected me, but this is a journey that I want you to begin to look at what you experienced in your childhood, especially that in an underground way informed how you would think about anger and held anger. Because I figured out with that explosion of anger from this very benevolent, gentle man, um, told me I had to hide it even further. So being called a Habotembo and seeing this helped me bury my anger very deeply. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Before we look at your personal history, do you notice, as I point out to you, that you're never taught about emotions in school, in your family, unless you had a remarkable set of parents? You just had to figure out on yourself, by yourself, or you um, modeled what your parents did. I modeled their stoicism. Some become a vocal or a silent rebel. I did that too. I was a silent rebel. I didn't know it. Others respond by withdrawing emotionally or freezing. Others can yell or shout or strike out. It's all reaction. It's not responses coming from any kind of understanding about your feelings, especially about anger. So, this is the first bit of self-reflection. I want you to spend the next short period of time, and I encourage a journal or a notebook and a pen to spend right now on any of these questions, or all of them if you have the time. I'll give you about a minute. What do you remember about anger in your home? What do you remember how your parents or core caregivers express their anger? Were you ever punished or shamed for being angry? So I'll give you about a minute and then I will call you back. All right. So please share in the chat or raise your hand if we can see you, or raise your hand with the devices we have and share something of what you discovered in that short minute about your history, early history with anger, how your parents were, how you reacted. Yes, Alex.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to share.
Thank you.
Um, I remember that my dad got angry, and I was a sensitive kid, and just it was such a big energy and scary and loud and unpredictable.
I don't think any of us walked away from anger thinking anger was a good thing. So say yes in the chat if anger makes you uncomfortable.
Yes, yes.
Good to know that. How about angry people hurting others? Have you experienced that? And of course, with what Alex is saying, I mean, his very angry father hurt many. And for say yes in the chat, if anger feels aggressive, anger has a lot of energy. And when it's not handled well, it's attacking, it's aggressive. Say in the chat if that's how anger feels to you.
I see a few yeses sometimes.
Thank you.
Pens.
Because we're going from anger is bad to another position. So this is section 2. We're going to explore how you relate to anger now. Think now for a minute and reflect on how you respond when you feel angry. Do you avoid anger, try to control it, or let it build until you explode? How does your body feel when you're angry? What do you believe about anger in general, yours or other people's? Any of these questions, if it catches your attention, please write a bit. I'll give you again 1 minute to reflect on how you respond to anger or angry people. All right, it's now time to talk about what came up for you. Any one thing, or better yet, I made it simple. Say yes in the chat if you explode with anger unexpectedly. Anyone owning that? You know, when I explode with anger unexpectedly, it's not a huge explosion. I just yell, I raise my voice. Say yes in the chat if you rarely feel angry. I used to be that way. For most of my life, did not feel angry. I would marvel at my first husband at how angry he could get. I just couldn't figure it out. Say yes in the chat if in general you don't like anger. You avoid angry people. Are we getting any? We're getting yeses
Yeah.
to some of
Yes.
these. Good. Thank you. So that we're on the same page here. Now, these are ways in which you may have patterns to avoid anger. Suppression is one, where you bury it so you don't feel it. Or you avoid conflict, you avoid people that are argumentative. You avoid bringing up subjects in groups or individuals where there's going to be conflict. Or you find yourself people pleasing, taking care of people's needs so they always will be happy with you. Nobody will anger you. Or you blame yourself. When all the dust settles, you say, it was my fault. I should have done this. I could have done this. It wasn't anyone's responsibility but me. This is where the anger turns against you, just like depression. Depression is unexpressed anger turned against you. You're making yourself guilty and to blame. It's all my fault. Or you're overly accommodating. You never disagree, even if you don't agree. You accommodate more patterns. You numb out, you shut down, or you adopt perfectionism. If I can keep avoiding mistakes and be as perfect as I can, no one will have any quarrel with me. And then passive aggressiveness, which we don't have to talk much about, because if you're passive aggressive, you don't know you're angry and it leaks out. Other people know. And if you say, hey, that hurt, they'll say, what are you talking about? Because consciously, they're not aware of their anger. All right. Section 3 is anger as the power to align with your heart. Now it's going to move from seeing anger as the bad thing and seeing anger as a gift. I see anger as your heart saying no. It's saying no about needs for safety, respect, understanding, and love that are not met. So if you can think about being angry, which I'm going to assign shortly, can you think of it not as a bad thing, but a message from your heart? Can you begin to slowly consider that seeing anger as a bad thing, to be avoided, to be suppressed, and all you can do to avoid it, and reconsider that anger is a message from your heart. It's a message of no. So before we go any further into this change, I want you to know that obvious anger is one thing, but there are subtle signs of anger that you may not think of as anger. You know how you say, oh, this person really frustrates me. You don't think of being angry with that person. Or when you say, oh, that really disappointed me. You don't think of disappointment and anger. Irritation, and annoyance, they're not anger. Judgment, that's a hard one. Judgment is anger. Judgment is against someone where you're saying, I'm right, they're wrong, and there's a tinge of righteousness about it. And this topic is quite complicated. I catch myself judging and have to say, okay, what am I angry about? Yelling? When you criticize, it's anger speaking. You're not perfect. You're making mistakes. Brooding, when you brood or you resent, oh, the resentment's up there. Or when you complain, you complain about what happened here, what this person did, that driver who cut you off, people not staying in their lanes, you're complaining. It's a subtle expression of anger. And when you blame, there's also anger, usually against yourself. Oh, but you can blame other people. Oh, it's their fault. If they hadn't done this or said this, none of this would happen. Or when you're arguing, anger is fueling the argument. So I wanted to bring this up to say that we can deal with anger in a broad scheme and sort of say, okay, I've got anger handled. But when you really look at the subtle signs of anger, you would say, oh, I'm angry more often than I think. So the emotional reset is, does it make a difference to you if you could see anger as your heart saying no? Does it make a difference if anger says needs are being ignored? Does it make a difference if by listening to your heart, you align with your heart? No, so this is the emotional reset I am describing that I'm offering to you. Up to a few minutes ago, you were looking at how you would normally look at and react to anger. Now we're getting into the subtleties and a different posture, a different way of relating to anger. So when you're angry, rather than saying, oh, yeah, it's uncomfortable, I don't want to see it, you notice that, and then you say, this anger is a message from my heart saying no. But can I stay with the anger to see what needs are being ignored? Can I see that listening to my anger, I'm aligning with my heart from where the message is coming? So I want to give you more than a bit of time, 2 minutes this time, to take a recent time when you were angry, frustrated, disappointed, annoyed, irritated, jealous. I didn't put jealous on the list. Or when you felt yourself judging or criticizing anything. So be clear what it did happen. And instead of your normal reaction to it, listen. What did your heart say no to? The person or the situation? What was the no about? And be curious about your heart's no to see what you needed instead. So, this is an important exercise. So, I will give you 2 minutes to do this. So, how was that exercise for you? What did you learn? How far did you get? I'd like to hear it from as many on this as possible. Who'd like to start? Hey, Ruth. Care to start?
I can start if you'd like, Anne.
Oh, beautiful, Anna. Go ahead.
Yeah, so my anger was telling me that I needed to be validated and to feel cared for and to feel safe.
Beautiful. Excellent. And to push it a bit further, knowing that those were your needs and the situation or person that created this situation you were angry in, what could you do about those needs, about being validated, to be safe, etc.?
Hmm. I think because I don't think I can really control other people, I can ask for some validation, but I think maybe validating it myself and providing the needs myself.
Absolutely. That's the development of the work that we do, my clients and I, to get to the point where what people call reparenting, where they we as humans look for the love, the safety, respect, and all of that outside ourselves. Because when we were little, we didn't have any resources. We depended on our parents to do this. So it's a very natural tendency to look, especially with love, looking out there and with friends, romantic relationship, looking for the love that's going to fill your heart. Um, and it takes deep work to realize that when you know yourself well enough, you're the best able to be that parent to yourself. I have an inner child process which guides people to meet with a particular inner child and learn what their needs are, etc., to make the child feel validated and with your presence feel safe, protected, and so forth. So there are other ways. However, finally getting to the to the place that realizing you can be the best parent to yourself because you know yourself well. And as I say this, but some of us will have to learn to be more compassionate, more more forgiving, um, and more present. And without that, our presence with the inner child is not as full as it can be. So that still takes a lot of inner work in that particular way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you, Anna, for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Alex, want to give it a whirl?
Yeah, I'm happy to speak. I'm also happy to wait if someone else wants to go
No, go for it.
before. Yeah, okay. Um, so like, sorry, ask me a question that I can answer, if that's all right. What do you want me to speak to? Sorry, I've kind of lost the track.
Um, Going to a time when you were angry and seeing it as a message from your heart,
Mm,
what did your heart need instead of what it had?
yeah. Okay. So very maybe just the outlines of the situation, or do you not want that?
Oh, go, please.
Okay. I was in a bar and the guy I was with started being, I felt, inappropriate to a woman. in the group that we all know each other. Um, and I tried to get it to stop, and it didn't stop. And I guess I felt she wasn't safe, but in many ways it was me that wasn't safe. Maybe she wasn't. I don't know. After we spoke, she seemed to be more okay with it than I was. But I got really angry, like really like furious with this guy, and let it out. It surprised me. It just all came out. I guess there were other things there too, but I certainly, in terms of what my heart needed, it needed to stop for me to feel comfortable in that moment. And I wanted it to stop for her, but I've come to see how much I was in it as well. Um, but actually, just it needed just a healthy boundary, and for the guy to respect that, but also for me to put that boundary more clearly and even express it as me, not even though it was to her, always be like, I need you to stop now. This is unacceptable to me.
Yeah.
And or like otherwise gain compassion but I don't know. I don't think I should have done nothing. It's still a difficult situation to know how to act.
Articulating boundaries isn't the easiest thing. How to not um, exacerbate the situation so it becomes really, really bad.
Yeah.
Um, and your instincts about this person may have actually been helpful because given how he was behaving, it would be likely that he would just get worse
Mm,
with the situation.
mm.
And to recognize that maybe it wasn't your job to protect the woman,
Yeah.
and uh, or even to say to her, "Are you all right with this?"
Yeah.
Which is different. So one
Yeah.
thing I
Yeah.
have found in difficult situations, asking questions is a neutral way to intervene. Or say like they're having dinner conversation and I'm bored. How 20 minutes long on a topic that is going round and round and round. I don't need this. And I could say, do you have to continue this or could we change the subject or something?
Mm,
And they're happy to change the subject. But it takes a neutral kind of intervention like that. So I'm chalking up my neutral interventions about situations that make me uncomfortable. And sometimes you need to walk away.
yeah.
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 Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I just one last thing. It did reveal a lot to me about my own like projections around not safe and yeah, that I was putting on him and on her even. So yeah, it's led to a lot of helpful awareness. Mm.
Yeah. Good. Thank you. Yeah. Projections is another hugely rich topic that, um, like I got into this morning. I was talking about a situation where this particular student was bothering me with her behavior week after week after week. I didn't know how to intervene because I felt any intervention would make her feel she did something wrong, and she would be so defensive and close down even more. Um, so the last group, I said, let's talk about resistance and how we resist. Uh, so that's the outside situation. Today, I was given a post that said, everything that disturbs your peace is a need for forgiveness. And that landed because what was disturbing me was my projection, right? It disturbed my peace. And what is it that I see in her that I was not forgiving? And it was deep. Um, but I got clarity and I forgave myself in those, and I feel so much better. So the overall about this emotional reset, um, Ruth is I know Ruth for a while now. And she said, you know, you keep saying embrace, embrace, embrace all this stuff. And I used to just be so annoyed, but now she gets it. But the overall principle of emotional reset is to use every distress, every struggle, every negative event as an opportunity to grow and learn and not run away and say, oh, I'm depressed again, or I'm in this fearful place and I just want to run away. But when you embrace it, you're listening to the emotions that are coming from your heart. Your heart is saying something to you. Your heart knows you well. And when you go there, you learn, oh, I need safety. I need protection. I need love. I need respect. And the story, borrowing from tomorrow, is because we were never consistently and substantially seen, understood, needs respected, fulfilled, all of that too young, and it hurt. And that's how trauma parts were born. And that's what we're going to get into a lot more. We have 10 more messages. I mean, Anna, are you hearing anyone contributing to sharing?
Um, so what was there was from before the last yes questions you
Yeah.
asked.
Cindy said something. Anger has a purpose, but if someone is angry and holds on to that as their motives, that are, yeah, right. Who wants to keep running into an angry person? There are people who run on the energy of anger and don't know it. And you don't want to be around it. You don't want to confront it. That's the way of being. So walking away is a way of setting boundaries. So setting boundaries is a good outcome of learning your needs.
And there's one from Ruth. Can you see
Mm.
it?
Yeah. Do you mind describing what the dreams are that you think it's your anger not being expressed? You can talk, right? Oh, audio is still messed up. Okay.
I can share.
Yes, please.
Cindy, I
Yes.
think as I was looking through the situations of like a situation that made where I felt angry, I also realized that it wasn't just one thing, there's a pattern of why I'm angry.
Mm-hmm.
No matter whether it's frustration, disappointment, and they revolve around the feelings of not being heard and not being respected. So that also comes with boundaries as the secondary to the other two. But to me, it's really no matter how many times I repeated myself or said something, I just didn't feel the message hit. And my expertise or something was not
Yeah,
being respected. And that really ticked me off.
right. Exactly. And as we will go into tomorrow, it touches upon a childhood belief that you're not good enough. It touches that wound that,
Yep.
they're not respecting, they're not honoring your expertise, and it can touch the wound. Oh, like when you were really little,
Yep.
that you're not good enough. We all walk around with some form of not good enough for a long time until we heal enough of the inner children that didn't feel good enough. Does that make sense to you, Cindy? I'm not speaking out of the.
No, I mean I'm aware of a lot of that,
Yeah.
but it's still, and I can separate that out, like saying, okay, there's the part of me that sometimes feel knows that history of quote not being validated or feeling enough and where that pops up, especially career, but it's a whole other issue. And I'm aware of it, but yet I seem to attract some of that. It's my set point, and it's the area that I need to that hey, that which we resist tends to persist, or we need to grow. It's a message, and I think for me, it's like I don't know how to communicate, like, hey, you're not getting it, or saying, like, yeah, if somebody else told them the same thing, they listened, and it really ticks me off. So, like, I've come across that where someone else says the same thing, they will listen. But when I said it, it didn't matter. So
Mhm.
that was something that bothers me, and I'm not sure how the conversations I need to have um the difficult conversations where there's high stakes involved.
Oh, yes.
Lower stakes I can deal with. When there's high stakes that are involved, I'm not sure how to have those difficult conversations. And that's a different area of growth that I know I need to address.
Uh-huh.
Long-winded answer, but thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh no, it's you made me think of all sorts of things about in a career situation when you're not being respected, what's going on there. And this whole thing about projection that I got into a little bit is something I would explore. It says, I think I heard you say something like you tend to attract this kind of situation where your voice is not heard, right?
I did say that. Mhm.
Yeah. Darn. That says that there's really something you need to explore because
Mhm.
I see life as giving us opportunities to grow. And if the knock keeps coming, it's something that we're not seeing and not acknowledging. So we need to take it on to see what is there that we cannot see. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing all of that because
Thank you.
it is complicated. Okay, Ruth says, that is my ex. What I say is never real or true or worth listening to unless someone else saying, oh, oh. So you two feel the same thing, that it's coming from you when somehow when it does, it's ignored and dismissed. And that can certainly be maddening. We will work on this more. Thank you so much for participating as you did. Let's go back and see what else I have in store for the rest of the time together. So I already brought this up in the discussion. When a parent wasn't there, when you needed comfort, nurturance, to me, changed out of your diaper, when you needed water or milk, there was enough time, and it could be a short period of time, that it went over the threshold for you and there was pain, that no one was there, no one came. Or someone did sometimes, but not consistently. So the pain grew. That is the connection I want to make with the inner child, because one of the signals of the inner child is anger. And it is very powerful, the saying no part, because it's listening to your heart and it's connecting to your heart, which is totally opposite from how we normally proceed. One of the inner child signal is anger. When we're being rejected, betrayed, abused, abandoned, neglected, the current frustration reflect past wounds. So I have found it to be so that the frustration isn't about the present moment, but somehow is reflecting past wounds that we need to untangle. But it started when we were very little. So unhealed anger leads to people-pleasing, perfectionism, overworking to gain approval, chronic exhaustion, resentment, and loss of purpose, or feeling stuck and unable to move forward in personal and career growth. Harriet Lerner, who a long time ago wrote on anger, anger is a signal and one worth listening to. And that's what we're attempting to do. So the reset is notice your anger and be curious, because it's a message on no from the heart. So rather than responding unconsciously, you notice and be curious. And rather than figuring things out with your intellect, align with your heart. Listen to your heart. Resetting emotionally is connecting to your heart when most of us, most of our lives, have allied with the thinking mind. Anger is the roar of your heart saying, I matter. I like that. That pretty much captures what's been said. So, how about an insight, an aha, a fresh perspective? Can you share something in terms of a takeaway? And here I'm going to rely on you, Anna, to share anything that anyone is putting out there. See anything differently? Do you feel hopeful? Do you feel discouraged?
Alex says, very helpful, curiosity, making space to learn rather than just repeat.
Very good. Repetition. I think of Einstein's supposed quote, repeating things over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity. It amuses me to hear that or remember that. Ruth had an aha in terms of hearing Cindy articulate, I think, what she was experiencing. Anything else? I quickly will want to run through this. This is AJ's story, being in a course of mine where she talked about conformity, and this is before. I conform by not staying true to myself in challenging situations. I suffer from draining my energy with people and things that don't serve me. I don't stand up for myself when needed. I do use distractions instead of feeling my feelings. It's hard to be present as I'm always looking for an escape or distractions. This is how I would describe her before story. And here is a current client's present story. She was someone who was abused since age 3, never acknowledged in her family for all the torture she was going through. She fell into a black hole at the start of COVID, what she describes a dark night of the soul. Recently, she has felt her anger and listened to her no. No to no longer being a doormat. No to her husband's anger. No to her needs not being met. Consulting, what does she need? I can kind of always ask her, what do you need? What do you need? And she's owning her nose and transforming her life as a result of that. Anger is a tool for change when it challenges us to become more of who we are. And that's what it is. I am using anger to help you see that it's a challenge to become more of who we are, to gain power, to gain clarity, to gain direction and purpose. So tomorrow we talk about transforming anger into power. All right, so stop share. We go back. Thank you for your participation. It would be very empty if you didn't participate the way you did. So I appreciate that and honor to participating. So I will look for you tomorrow, same station, same time. Yes? So have a good rest of your day and see you later. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Cindy, if you're still here, oops, she's left. I will communicate with her.